Jimmy Kimmel back last night pounding, just relentlessly pounding Trump and the suppression of speech into oblivion. We're going to look at a couple of parts of Jimmy Kimmel's monologue. Look, I don't even watch late night shows. Honestly, I find most of them unfunny, and the interviews are cringe. But that's not the point. The point is, people should be free to do their shows however they want. If it's good or bad, funny or boring, that's for the audience to decide, not the government. Real talk. When the government starts messing with comedians, that's not about comedy anymore, that's about free speech. So here's Jimmy Kimmel, overcome with emotion over this entire fiasco. I've been hearing a lot about what I need to say and do tonight, and the truth is, I don't think what I have to say is going to make much of a difference. If you like me, like me. If you don't, you don't. I have no illusions about changing anyone's mind, but I do want to make something clear, because it's important to me as a human, and that is, you understand that it was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man. I don't think there's anything funny about it. I posted a message on Instagram on the day he was killed, sending love to his family and asking for compassion, and I meant it. I still do, nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. That was really the opposite of the point I was trying to make. But I understand that to some that felt either ill-timed or unclear, or maybe both, and for those who think I did point a finger, I get why you're upset. If the situation was reversed, there's a good chance I'd have felt the same way. I have many friends and family members on the other side, who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all. I don't think the murderer who shot Charlie Kirk represents anyone. This was a sick person who believed violence was a solution, and it isn't, ever, and also, selfishly, I'm a person who gets a lot of threats. I get many ugly and scary threats against my life, my wife, my kids, my co-workers, because of what I choose to say, and I know those threats don't come from the kind of people on the right who I know and love, so that's what I wanted to say on that. So yeah, that was Kimmel basically doing a mea culpa. He's saying, look, I didn't mean it the way some people took it, but I get why folks are mad. Fair enough. He owned up to how it landed, even if that wasn't his intent. Real talk. You can dislike his comedy, but at least he stood up and clarified. All right, so Jimmy Kimmel doing a bit of a mea culpa and saying, even though his intentions weren't what they were portrayed and so on and so forth, he understands if people didn't like his comment. Now, then he gets into what I think is the critical aspect of this. And he starts going in on Trump, and he starts going in on the suppression of speech in the completely anti-American way that this administration is carrying itself. He says government threats to silence comedians are anti-American. This is the real meat of it. Forget the apology part. What matters is Kimmel calling out Trump for trying to shut people up. And honestly, he's right. If the government threatens comedians, that's not tough politics. That's straight up anti-American. This is really good stuff, and it's not just comedy. He's gunning for our journalists who he's suing them. He's bullying them. Over the weekend, his foxy friend Pete Hegseth announced a new policy that requires journalists with Pentagon press credentials to sign a pledge promising not to report information that hasn't been explicitly authorized for release, that includes unclassified information they want to pick and choose what the news is. I know that's not as interesting as muzzling a comedian, but it's so important to have a free press. And it is nuts that we aren't paying more attention to it. Walter Cronkite must be spinning in his grave right now. He's dead, right? See, this is where people should actually be freaking out. It's not just about late night jokes. They're literally trying to control what journalists can and can't report, even stuff that isn't classified. That's wild. Real talk. If you don't see how dangerous that is, you're not paying attention. Look, I never imagined I would be in a situation like this. I barely paid attention in school. One thing I did learn from Lenny Bruce and George Carlin and Howard Stern is that a government threat to silence a comedian the president doesn't like is anti-American. That's anti-Trump clearly not liking this, as evidenced by his Truth Social tirade that we looked at, and then Kimmel going in even more specifically on Brendan Carr 10 years ago. This sounded crazy. Brendan Carr, the chairman of the FCC, telling an American company we can do this the easy way or the hard way, and that these companies can find ways to change conduct and take action on Kimmel, or there's going to be additional work for the FCC ahead, in addition to being a direct violation of the First Amendment, is not a particularly intelligent threat to make in public. Seriously? When the FCC chair starts sounding like a mob boss, that's insane. The easy way or the hard way? Bro, this isn't The Sopranos. This is America. And you don't get to strong-arm companies just because the president doesn't like a comedian. Ted Cruz said he sounded like a mafioso, although I don't know if you want to hear a mob boss make a threat like that. You have to hide a microphone in a deli and park outside in a van with a tape recorder all night long. This genius said it on a podcast. Brendan. Carr is the most embarrassing car Republicans have embraced since this one, and it's a picture of a Cybertruck. And Kimmel is completely correct here. Even Cruz thought it sounded like mob talk. And when Ted Cruz thinks you sound sketchy, you've really messed up. He even makes the point that I alluded to, which is, it gets a lot of attention when it's a late-night comedian with a huge staff and huge show. But the question is, do we live in a country where you can just do the show you want, even if you're criticizing the president, or don't we? This show is not important. What is important is that we get to live in a country that allows us to have a show like this. Exactly, it's bigger than Kimmel. The real question is, can you speak freely in this country without worrying about government payback? If not, then we've already lost the plot. And this is why, even if you don't care about Jimmy Kimmel, and I haven't watched the Jimmy Kimmel show and I don't even know how long it's been on, I just don't watch it. It's not about that. This is about what comes next. And not everybody has the financial independence and the resources to defend themselves and to beat back such an attack, as does Jimmy Kimmel. And so at minimum, remember, like and subscribe on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple to the shows that you support. I would love it if this were one of them. But beyond that, we've got a bigger fight ahead of ourselves. See, that's the thing. Kimmel's rich, he's got a platform and lawyers. He can handle the heat. Most independent creators, not so lucky. That's why supporting smaller voices matters. Because they're the ones who get crushed first when the government starts swinging. Here now, Jimmy Kimmel, then also very pointedly referring to now the Epstein files are going to have to come out. He did his best to cancel me instead. He forced millions of people to watch the show that backfired. Bigly, he might have to release the Epstein files to distract us from this now. Anyway, so Kimmel is back, as we talked about on the award-winning bonus show yesterday. The bonus show where you want to make money. Everybody else that makes money define themselves as bad, right as we spoke about on the bonus show yesterday. It's not clear how many of the ABC affiliate stations are ultimately going to be broadcasting this show. Some Next Star and Sinclair stations not running it, but this is a step in the right direction. Although I also don't want to miss the fact that Kimmel, as a privileged multimillionaire getting his show back, it's the right thing from the standpoint of government suppression of speech. But the real concern for us needs to be the small and independent media outlets. Those that are doing investigative reporting and investigative reporting of the sort that cuts directly to the core of what is wrong with this administration. Those are the bigger concerns. So the independent producers and content creators that you follow, we all really need your support right now. And hopefully Kimmel coming back is not going to unleash a subsequent layer of attacks on all of the sorts of shows that are critical of and that make fun of this administration and the president. Bottom line, yeah, it's good that Kimmel's back, because government shouldn't be deciding who gets to stay on TV. But don't lose sight of the bigger picture. Independent media, small creators, investigative journalists, they don't have Kimmel's money or network power. If free speech is under attack, they're the first ones in the line of fire.